Hello and welcome. I'm happy to be here with the Wisconsin anti-violence effort. This is our voter registration team, and even though voter registration's over, we're kind of transitioning into a get out the vote team. We've been live every Wednesday for about the past month, kind of giving some information to folks about voting, registering to vote, now getting out to the polls, keeping your family civically engaged. My name is Tyler. I'm one of the leads of this team, Wave, and I'm really excited to have you all joining tonight. Tonight we're going to be featuring Adeline, as she's going to be talking about what specifically youth under the age of 18 can do to really get involved, and we're going to be highlighting the importance of Wave's action teams and how effective they can really be in turning people out and making sure that we have a really fair democratic election come November 3rd. It's enough of me talking. I'm going to ask first Aaron to introduce himself as one of the team members.
Yeah, my name is Aaron, and I am on the action team for voter registration and now get out the vote at WAVE. I'm currently a freshman at UW-Madison and a prospective actuarial scientist or actuary. And I guess next I can introduce Will, or Will can introduce.
Thank you, Aaron. Hi, everyone. I'm Will. I'm also a freshman at UW-Madison. I interned with WAVE last year, and I'm now on the voter registration and get out the vote teams. And I'm happy to be here tonight. And now, Adeline, if you want to introduce yourself and get into the event, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, for sure. Hi, I'm Adeline. I'm actually a high schooler from Cambridge, Wisconsin, just outside of Madison. And I was an intern this summer with WAVE, and now I'm part of the VR/GOTV efforts here. And I'll pass it off to Aaron to start us off right away.
Yeah, so obviously people under the age of 18 can't vote. So I was just wondering, overall, what opportunities are there for youth under the age of 18 to be civically engaged?
Yeah, so I'll start with some other things and then we'll get into some of the things you can do with WAVE. But first you can contact your legislature or whoever represents you in your area and kind of let them know what's important to you in this upcoming election. And let them know, even though you can't vote, you are still definitely a part of democracy and you will work with your family. And so just let them know, make your voice heard with the legislators in your area. Also volunteer to be a poll worker. If you're over 16, you can be a poll worker in your area. You do get a slight compensation. The Dane County area is not looking for any more poll workers, but I'm pretty sure almost every other area is still looking for people to help run the polls. And you can check out all the opportunities at myvote.wi.gov. And then from there, you'll pretty much be able to find any information you need, even if you're not a voter, about voting. And then I would love to share a little bit about WAVE's WAVE Action Leader program. And so I'm going to actually share my screen real quick. Okay. Let's see if I can find it. So this is the My Vote page. So if you were looking to become a poll worker, you can check it out here. But we can, so this is the WAVE Action Leader site. So this is really an important graph, kind of conveying the importance of organizing and getting out the vote within peers and friend-to-friend mobilization, as we call it. So as you can see, organized friend-to-friend mobilization is a lot higher than any other form of getting people out to the polls. So to be a WAVE action leader, it's really simple, and all you have to do is create a list of at least 5 people, whether that's friends, family members, neighbors, coworkers, hairdressers, teachers, whatever. And then Wave will help you. Wave will let you know when you need to contact your friends and will call on you to do things such as remind them when the election is, remind them to find their polling place, and we'll keep you up to date consistently with that couple of people that you add to your list. And then to become a Wave Action Leader, all you have to do is just sign up with a link that you can see right here, getempowered.com/wave. And then all you have to enter is some basic info, your first name, your last name, and either your phone number or email. And then it'll help you, and then it'll show you right what to do. You'll enter your 5 to 10 people. You can always have more than 10, of course. And yeah, I'll scroll up and just point out some of, oh, I don't think it's on this actually, but there are lots of amazing Wave Action Leaders that we've been working with. And if you want to see more of them, we've been shouting them out on social media recently. And so they've been talking about their experience with being Wave Action Leaders. So go check that out. And then I'll stop sharing for now. And I think that's the main things that you can do to be civically engaged right away with the upcoming election.
Adeline, that's really awesome. Just wanted to remind anyone watching that we're here in the chat on the Facebook event. If anyone wants to have any live questions, comments, concerns, we can certainly address them and hopefully help you all out in terms of getting your plans to vote, which is so crucial. November 3rd, less than 2 weeks away. Adeline, my next question for you would be, how can I explain my differing political opinions to my parents and family?
Yeah, there are lots of really important points that I want to hit. A couple of them just kind of talking to not necessarily your parents if that's not who you want to talk to, grandparents, neighbors, whoever you're close to. Just talk about how important this upcoming election is and kind of explain what is important to you, such as gun violence, which is what Wave's really focused on, or climate change, and kind of just share your opinions on that. But also be respectful. Like differences of opinions are going to happen, but the more respectful everyone is, the further you are going to get in conversations. And even that disagreement doesn't mean that it's not important for whoever you're disagreeing with to vote. So obviously, if you're under 18, you can't vote, but if you can get anyone out to the polls, that is amazing. And then conversations might be tough, but your voice is really important. And whoever you're talking to, especially if you have a disagreement, wants to hear your voice, whether you guys are agreeing or not. And then also knowing your facts is so important. So if you are trying to get your family members out to vote, the more you know about where and how to vote, the more likely they'll be to do it. So any information that you need, again, you can find at myvote.wi.gov, and you can find your polling place there, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But you can also just find about when and if they still need to register, how you can do that in person now that online registration is done.
Before Will asks the next question, I just wanted to reiterate something Adeline just said. A reminder to anyone that didn't have the opportunity to register to vote before the deadline, which was a week ago today, which feels like a long time, but you can still register and you can go and in-person register an early vote or register same day at the polls. It should be open at your city clerk's office. It should be open during regular business hours up to the election. Tuesday, November 3rd, poll places are open from 7 a.m. until 8 p.m. If you're in line, you get to vote. Regardless if you're registered, you can do it at the site. You still have your right to vote. Go out and do it. Will, would you like to move on to the next question?
Of course, thank you for reminding everyone of that, Tyler. So Adeline, how do I make sure that my family is ready to vote?
Yeah, so it's actually really important. So the number one thing you can make sure that you can work on is making sure that everyone in your family has a voting plan. So some things to consider are how are they going to vote, whether that be an absentee, and at this point it is not necessarily guaranteed that your ballot is going to arrive if you mail it, but there are drop-off locations everywhere. So you can drop off your absentee if that is how you're voting or anyone in your family is voting, or if they're voting early in person or regular in person, make sure they know where they're going. And then also make sure you help them find a sample ballot. You can also find that at myvote.wi.gov. And you can enter in your address and everything that will be on the ballot. You can see ahead of time so you can do your research and be prepared to vote when time comes. And then also, whatever voting method they're using, if it's in person at all, make sure you know where you're voting. So I'm actually going to pull up an example of finding your polling place real quick. And this is going to be the location of, if you lived at the Pfizer Forum, this is where you would vote. So I'm going to hit find my polling place. And then all you're going to do is enter your address. So I'm just entering the location of Pfizer. And then all you have to do is hit search, and then it'll pop right up. So if you lived at the Forum, then you would vote at Highland Gardens, which is right here. So on November 3rd, they're open 7 a.m. to 8 p.m., like all polling places. And if you can get directions, if you need that, so whatever you need, you can find it here. So this is just one example. Obviously enter whatever address you or a family member registered from. I'm gonna stop sharing. And then also make sure you're prepared if voting interferes with any kind of work schedule for a family member. Make sure that you can schedule ahead of time and let a boss or supervisor or whoever needs to know that you will be off of work for a little bit. That is a right you have to go vote. And also, if you need any form of childcare or a family member who's voting, make sure you figure that out. Obviously, it would be amazing if any children can come to the polling places, but it is a precaution you might think of, especially with the pandemic, that the less people that show up at the polling places, the better. So if there's anywhere a child can go, if it is not safe for them to bring them to the polling place, make sure you think of that ahead of time. And also make sure that any voter gets a ride if you need a ride. So there are free rides all over Wisconsin, also especially in Milwaukee if you're in that area. But there are free rides to the polls. You can check it out at voteriders.org. You can find a free ride to the polls in Wisconsin. And that way, if you are in a location where it's not super accessible to go vote, you can try to make that work that way. And then finally, in the voting plan, what should a family member bring that's going to vote in person? So you need to bring your ID or any form of registration to make sure you're good to go. And then things to consider bringing with the pandemic for your own safety is a mask. And then these are less needed, but gloves or hand sanitizer and their own pen. Of course, if you don't have these things, you are obviously still more than welcome to go vote. Many polling places will be handing out PPE and have lots of pens ready to go. But if possible, bring these things to make sure you are as safe as possible. And so that's kind of the basics of making a voting plan and making sure any family members that are going to vote are ready.
Thank you so much, Adeline. I think that was a lot of awesome information, and I really appreciate it. So, per tradition, we kind of finish off these lives by explaining why and how we are voting. So I'm going to do that first. For me, I'm voting to see an end to all the problems and upsetting times we've had within the past few years. Throughout my lifetime, I think we've seen a lot of failures in politics, and I really think that I'm ready to start electing the next generation of leaders. And electing the next generation of leaders starts with the next generation of people starting to vote, which is why I'm super excited for this to be voting in my first presidential election. I've already voted by mail. I was able to check on my vote where you can actually track your ballot after you send it in, which I did after requesting and mailing in my absentee ballot. And it's a really nice system. And I know that my vote has already been received by my city clerk. And that's really exciting. Aaron, can you explain your thoughts on this?
Yeah, so I'm similar to Tyler in that I voted absentee and sent it in about 2 weeks ago, and it only took about a week then to be tracked and received, which is really nice. It might take longer now, but I am especially voting for to elect leaders that look more like me and less like my grandparents, because there's disproportionately currently more politicians look like my grandparents than the younger generations, even though the younger generations, population wise, are taking over America currently. So I'm excited in voting to see active, engaged politicians in our government, both up and down the ballot. I guess Will can go next.
All right, thank you, Aaron. Yeah, I mean, this is the first time I'll be able to vote, and it's especially important because as the world is getting increasingly chaotic and things are seemingly out of control, a vote is still a way that you can have a very real impact on the world around you, and you can encourage other people to have a similar impact. So yeah, I mean, that's really all the reason I need to go and vote. Tyler, do you want to wrap it up? Because I know Adeline unfortunately cannot vote yet.
Yeah, no, I've got to give another special shout out to Adeline. She did an awesome job tonight providing some great information. She's not 18, so she can't vote yet, but we know that she would be very happy to vote if she could and wishes that she could. Of course, thank you to the whole team at Wave for establishing this team. It's been a great year. We've been working on this throughout what seems to be the entire pandemic, working on voter registration and now getting out the vote. Which is why I've got to encourage you all to do it. It's coming up 13 days. We got an election. Get out and early vote. The election has already started. It doesn't start November 3rd. It ends November 3rd. So remember to go out, early vote as soon as you can. If not, go vote in person November 3rd. Stay safe, participate in democracy. Thank you all, and I really hope that you enjoyed this live stream.